So welcome back, Yoga Moms, to another powerful, awesome interview with someone I've been so excited to share with you. And some of you already know Christy Funk, and some of you are about to find out why we're so excited to have her here. But we're going to ask Christy to share some of her wisdom, some of her latest greatness with us in our Yoga Mom Revolution Stop Waiting, Lighten Up program here. So, Christy, you want to say hi before I tell them a little more about you?
Good morning, beautiful women. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's really cool that actually, even though this is an online program, a lot of the people wound up being from our parts here in Southern California. So Christy is also in Southern California like I am in Orange County. So we'll make sure that you all can connect with her online and even live and just be ready to enjoy more learning with Christy after you hear this interview. So I'm just so thankful that you made time for this, Christy, with all the busyness of your creating life and your family life. And we're just really lucky to get 30 minutes with you to hear some of your wonderful insights and some of what you've been into and offering to people. So, I knew that I wanted to invite you as part of this because, especially as we're helping us yoga moms come to a new place with this whole quote-unquote weight loss thing, and we did start by calling this program Stop Waiting, Lighten Up, and we've more and more let go of even the words about weight and more about just a whole nother approach to how we're feeling and even how we're conceiving of how we're looking. So I know you're right there with us in wanting to see a shift for women, and that some of your powerful work I see you bringing. I love that I see you, someone personally, you're really shining and bringing so much of this wisdom and this way with yourself. It's so easy to see that you're in such a wonderful place with how you're feeling about yourself and your life and how you're fostering that. And then I know professionally you're creating amazing programs to help other women who are ready to really shift gears and change our approaches with ourselves and really just get into loving our lives and loving ourselves and having a lot more fun with it all. So I just knew that you were a perfect fit for this, and I'm super excited to bring you to these moms, because we've been doing, just to let you know a little about what we've been bringing in as part of our approach, and seeing it all as yoga. I know you're a yogi as well, and you've taught yoga and you study yoga. And, one of my things I love to always remind us is that yoga really just means union or to join or to connect. So really anything and everything could be part of our yoga. And so yes, involving practices, but also a lot about the perspectives that are part of what yoga brings to us and part of the big shifts we can make. So we started out with getting into some of the foundational approaches with yoga, like looking at it all as energy, and that we're energy and everything's energy, and that it's all connected, and we're, connected to everything around us, and everything, mind, body, spirit is so connected. So a lot about the approach and the philosophy and looking at things like belief and focus and where our attention is, and then also adding in some of the yogi practices like a daily mat practice, like working with some special breath exercises, like adding in more official feelings of meditation and use of imagination. So I've been looking to help these moms really see the scope of what yoga can be, and also that they can really personalize it and add in things like dancing and walking and writing and drawing and all of that as part of their yoga, part of their union. But yeah, a lot about getting into the perspectives and, yes, weaving in the practices. So I think I'm most excited to talk to you about some of what you see with the perspectives and the mindset and how important that can be with some of these realms. And then, of course, if things that sound like practice or ideas come through, even actions you wind up wanting to suggest, we're up for that as well. So whatever parts you wind up adding in, we'll love. So I think I first want to ask you about, how are you feeling at this point as far as how important you see our feelings about ourselves, especially as we call it, like more about self-love, and how that's going to play into things like something like weight loss or just wanting to shift how we're feeling and how we're looking within ourselves. You want to just kind of like go from there and see what you feel like sharing on that? Mm-hmm.
And that's such a loaded topic. In so many ways, of course, my mind is going all over with that because it starts with ourselves, right? And in my own personal journey, and it's just been such a fascinating journey because I was drawn into yoga over 20 years ago and was just moved into finding out more about my body. I had a professor in college that was probably in her 60s. It was a kinesiology class, and she jumped up on the table in front of us all and showed us the muscles on her legs, and the woman was fit. And she had such a vitality about her that she actually, even though I came from a Latin American household where we ate real food, so it wasn't a question of that. It was more of the choices that I made when I was not with my mom and how easy it got into being into a place of like, give me the double, the fries and the chili cheese fries with my boyfriend at 2 o'clock in the morning, and just starting to look at food in a different way. And then I moved into the body part of it, and I was on a holistic mindset for over 20 years. I ditched the microwave. I was reading everything that I could on health and wellness and became very fascinated with it. And as my journey evolved, I was with my ex-husband for 16 years, married for 12, had 2 beautiful boys. I opened up a store where everything was about health and wellness. I wanted everybody to have these beautiful natural births. I wanted them to have options for cloth diapering and so on and so forth. And I was looking to heal everyone, and because that's my nature, right? And we're going through a divorce right now. It should be finalized this fall, but I've first separated from him 3 years ago. These 3 years have given me a completely different perspective. And just to give you a background, your listeners and your followers, the background is that I was molested when I was very young, and that reset everything, reprogrammed everything, rewired everything physiologically, psychologically, emotionally. And I wouldn't come to find out exactly how that played in until these last 3 years. Yeah. And so in the process of me seeking help, I was finding that subconsciously there was always something wrong with my body. And so I manifested, different illnesses. I was considered a hypochondriac. In a world where I was providing health and wellness for everyone through my store for 7 years, I suffered from extreme anxiety. I actually flatlined, could barely operate for a year, was so depleted, my adrenals and thyroid and everything was just wiped out because I was giving. And this is a really important thing for mothers to know, is that we cannot show up for our families and our children when we are depleted. So at that point in my journey, I realized I have to reevaluate my lifestyle. I have to reevaluate my store, my commitment to the store, commitment to myself first. And so I began that, and the holistic obsession for me was looking for others to heal. Like, I'm going to go to the best naturopath. I'm going to try the best supplements. I'm going to go to these workshops. I'm going to educate myself. But the healing really came from me.
Yeah.
And that was just a distraction for me addressing my inner needs. So when we talk about emotions, it's everything. So the weight that we carry is emotional baggage. The illness that we carry, and exactly what you're saying, Laura, and I just so appreciate what you're doing. You're expanding the yogi vision. It's not just about having abs of steel or like yoga buns. It's not, it's beyond that. The body and the movement is so vital that it's part of a whole complete picture. So when you're talking about the emotions and weight loss, absolutely. It's absolutely coming from a deeper place. And so I just invite anybody that's worked with me, anything that I've done is just to look within. And when I started really understanding this entire journey and the scope of how I've maneuvered, and I'm grateful for it all, really, really grateful, even grateful for my failed marriage. It taught me many, many lessons. But the healer is within, and I had to come to terms with my trauma. And not everyone on here has a trauma, but if you do, I invite you to explore that. And it actually has been a gift, and it's such a weird thing to say because people reject that, and I understand that it was my gift. And I no longer have anxiety. I used to be fearful of being alone, and just always constantly tuning into my body in a way like, oh, what was that? That hurt, so there's something wrong, and then just letting my mind go with it. When I eliminated that conversation and I started on the path of really radical self-love 3 years ago, those things started moving. And my perception of what my physical body was connected to my mental body, it became a celebration. And there's been bumps, ups and downs in the last 3 years. But now I can say I don't even think about disease. I don't even think, and my body has changed in this process. The curves have been, like physically my body has changed. And I look at it and I'm like, was that body always there? Right? Like, was that body always there? Because now I celebrate it, and I pushed myself, and I've been very, I've been very open and raw on my Facebook page. It's like all of you have kind of journeyed through this with me, and I chose that not as an exhibitionist, but because I felt that it could offer hope to women to seeing themselves differently, but it starts within. And even with weight loss, it's so fascinating because I'm definitely, I was blessed to have worked with a brilliant energy worker for over 13 years. And it's very specialized energy work, and it's not something that's easily found. Like, she wasn't Reiki. It was completely different. And we talked a lot about weight. And so a lot of the work that she and I she helped me with, I realized, sometimes when I'm feeling bigger, I'm carrying weight, like a little bit. I'm petite, but like you're petite, Laura. When you gain 2 or 3 pounds, for us, we feel it. We're in tune with our bodies. And when I'm carrying that, and can I say a naughty word?
Yes.
Okay. It's typically because I'm full of shit.
Yeah. Ooh. Wow.
And when I'm full of shit, it's not just like the digestion. It's like, where am I not being honest in my life?
Wow.
So yeah, emotions.
I love that.
Emotions. And when I come to terms with that, when I go on a deeper level, then it's like I clear that out of my emotional baggage, and then all of a sudden I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, we're good again. And it drops, and it sounds so bizarre, but you understand the power of that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I love how you, I love so much everything of what you're saying, really. And most of all, this coming back to how it starts within, which I think is so interesting, especially when we're looking at something that seemed like an outward issue. And then I think that a lot of us start to, kind of the older-fashioned way of looking at something like changing how we're feeling and how we're looking. We might be willing to own it, that, okay, this is going to start within, but with such a different, not self-love approach, I think, this typical more discipline, more structure, really bearing down on ourselves. And it's interesting to consider how that just adds more of the shit, as you say. And it's just so powerful. And especially I love that you brought up early on the idea that as moms, when we're coming to the family depleted, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, how much that doesn't work and how much our family feels that. And I do love that about getting to work with moms, that we certainly have the inspiration, that we have these children and these families that we want to show up for and we want to feel good for, and that we even want to pass on, some of these ideals, like how we're going to feel about ourselves. So it's a powerful place to get to play, because we have this strong desire and even more motivation to be our best. But it's so interesting to me that I think we're finding to quote unquote be our best. It's such a different, more soft, gentle, sweet approach than a lot of us might have been trying. And I love that you bring in the word being honest with ourselves about our lives, and even just that idea and feeling of being tuned into ourselves enough to be able to look at, what's going on when we are feeling off, or when we notice some shifts in ourselves physically, to let it be about being more and more tuned in to what's really happening for us. And then, I love to play with how we can tune up how we're feeling with some of these practices and perspectives with, as we start to realize how we're doing. So it's just so powerful to me and exciting to think about how we can shift and actually fill ourselves up with something so different and so powerful, and how much, that actually does shift some of these things, like how we're feeling in our bodies. And I love that you bring up the energy of it all, because I love seeing that when we're playing with something like yoga, it is such energy medicine, and to just look at it all as energy-based, to me, is kind of freeing, instead of, it frees up the possibilities of what can shift and change, and why even some things are going on for us. And I love that you bring up the focus on disease and what's wrong with the body too, because I feel like that's very related, in just that, like you were saying, you realized it was almost like a distraction for you, and I've seen that with the weight thing as well, that I remember when I felt even more in that worry with myself, and worrying about how my body was looking and if I was doing enough to stay fit, and at some point realizing, like, wow, I'm kind of busying with myself with these issues, so I don't have to think about, the bigger and deeper things in my life. And so for me, that was kind of a waking up when I realized it was almost like a thing keeping me busy that I thought was productive, but it actually wasn't really where I wanted to put my attention. And then I find it so fascinating, the momentum of things, that when we're focusing on something, that so often we can create more of what we don't want with that focus. So that's where I love just shifting the whole focus with something like this to more of an inward experience, and so much more about love and gentleness and kindness, and really just tuning inward a lot more as the answer.
Yes.
I think it's
Yes.
so powerful. And I guess it's a very feminine thing, isn't it, as we hear that maybe we're moving into getting more into these more feminine, quote unquote, ways, that would be maybe more of a feminine approach, to be more inward and soft and open and fluid with everything, including how we're conceiving of ourselves and how we're handling ourselves. So,
Yeah, well, so just, I'd love to be able to make this very clear for women, because of course, you know, our journeys and my journey, it just sounds like so much. It doesn't sound so much for me now that I'm in a place. I actually created emotional freedom, which is a huge thing. And I've just been gifted. I really feel like I've been gifted major downloads and just introspection, and I've just been gifted the support for me and my children so that I was able to do this work to take it bigger. I'm just asking for clarity of how to take this and make it into a language so that it's applicable for women that may struggle to see this. So I'd love to offer some clear, like, you know, what is the first step? What is the first step for somebody to do this, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I've found, of course, we live in a culture of busyness. We live in a culture of distractions and addictions. They can be subtle addictions. They can be very profound, dark addictions. But what are we distracting from? Everything in our culture is about distracting ourselves from ourselves. And the most important relationship with anyone is the intimate relationship we have with ourselves. And intimacy is a big, huge fear flag. We have become so disconnected that it's easier to have superficial relationships with others and, of course, with ourselves. Intimacy may bring up things like sexuality and sensuality. But I absolutely, wholeheartedly will vouch for the importance of an intimate relationship with yourself. And however that needs to be. For me, I started, it started to be with yoga. Yoga was my pathway into ooh, I'm feeling my body. Ooh, I'm feeling my breath, so that when I drive my little Mercedes and it's putting along, and I used to get frustrated before, now I can just breathe as it's cutting along and just feeling fine. I'm feeling the power of good nutrition in my body. And then I had to explore, I had to, do a lot of shadow dancing and facing my dark side, and that was good. But wherever you are, I just invite women to look at your life right now and how are you feeling? And just really write about it. And are you scared? Are you insecure? Are you feeling fabulous? Are you feeling your most authentic version of who you think you're here to be? And so when we start in that, we start with awareness. We start looking at how am I feeling and what has my track record, what has my life tracking been up until this point? Where am I making the same, maybe not the best choices? Where am I not making those? Where is it in relationships? Is it in commitments? Is it in self-sabotaging? Is it, where in your life is it not congruent with what you really feel you should be here?
Yeah.
So the intimate relationship with yourself starts with an awareness of where you are right now.
Yeah.
And where you are right now, is that going to be the same person you want to be in 6 months or 5 years? Are you so satisfied with who you are that you're just willing to okay, I'm good. I'm just going to do yoga, and I just got to get those poses, and I just want to lose some weight, but everything else is good, then wonderful. But if it's not, if you're finding, wait, no, gosh, I've been in abusive relationships, or I'm in a career that just makes me feel trapped, or I'm so busy in my life that I can't be present for my child, or start to really take a look deep within, and that there you go. You have just started that intimate relationship with yourself, and I just invite you to continue to explore it and not be afraid of it, not be afraid of who you are as a feminine woman, sensually, sexually, intimately, relational. How are you with your partner or your husband? And how loving are you with your child? Are you projecting your fears on your child? Big one. A big one. Because as a mom, I'm in the prime of my life. With my children, it is so amazing what's happened even just in the last 6 months. I just feel so present. I look at them as individuals. I applaud who they are because they're both very different. I have found that I no longer need to project any of my fears or insecurities on them. I just want my commitment that I've made to my children and myself is that any choice and decision that I make that is not in the highest good of me and my children is out the door. If it's not in alignment with my vision for me and my children and our highest good, I won't engage in it. So I have just so much more clarity. I have so much more peace. I see them apart from me. I don't have to smother them. I don't have to patrol them. I don't have to do anything but provide the security that they need, the love, and the presence. And so when you do more of this, but it starts with yourself, and we can look at our children and see where are we not being congruent with who we are. Where are we acting out of fear? And so once you start to look inwards and then you start to look at your life, then I invite you to really look at how are you caring for yourself. I always use the burnt toast analogy of okay, mom gets the burnt toast, everybody else is good. When I was depleted, when I was wiped out, it became like mommy's eating first. And the boys would even say, they were little, and they're like, Mommy, breakfast. I'm like, Mommy has to eat first. It's like in the airplane, you put the mask on yourself first so that you can save the child.
Yeah.
But we have this weird, martyrdom that we jump into, and I know that I did that, and I saw it in my Belly Sprout community. It's like we have to be the best. The children need everything organic, but mommy was eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or grabbing a Starbucks and just wasn't feeding herself, but her kid.
Right.
All the best.
Yeah. It's such an interesting flip on it. And gosh, and I love that you're giving us these clear steps. And to me, it goes so right along with what we learned from the yogis about, coming in and really building our awareness and having the non-judgment and, starting with where we are and honoring where we're starting from, and then starting to, make some shifts about how we can be attending to ourselves differently and caring for ourselves differently. And it makes so much sense to me that you're bringing it down to feelings and emotions, and, especially as we now see how much things like excess weight can be about emotion. It's so interesting to me and powerful that if we make it so much more about being tuned into how we're feeling and how we're handling our feelings, that can just shift it all. And then especially I love the success story that you're sharing of how your inner work and your inner shifts are now playing into your relationship with your kids, and how much different you feel with them, and how much more you're able to be the kind of mom you want to be. because of these inner shifts of how you're feeling about yourself and how you're attending to your feelings. So, and I think that's a big yogi lesson for us, to just be more in that feeling mode and just be more tuned into how we are feeling, and be more ready to do what we need to do to just feel better. And I love that you've got such clear, concise ways to help us move towards that. So I love that.
You're welcome. I love what you're doing, and I'm really, really honored to be here. And if I could just shift perspective in one soul, then I've done my job. You know, to me, I wanted my marriage to work. I wanted that family so bad. And I want people to stay in their marriages. And it starts with us. It starts with the female. It starts with the queen of the household, right? On an energetic level. And, of course, I'm really going into a place of the feminine and the masculine in a whole different way. And that's another topic that I'm really excited about. And it's going to ruffle feathers because we've emasculated our men. And we've confused the dynamics and of the household, of all of it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a different thing because, and I'm excited to explore that in another realm. But for the sake of this conversation and for what we're sharing with the women here, is we have so much on our plate as mothers. We have to, if you're a stay-at-home mom, and if you're a working mom, there's still struggles with that, of how much do we give to our children, how much of ourselves, how much time do we have for ourselves? Very few of us have time for ourselves. I've seen it in the store. I saw it with myself in my marriage.
Yeah.
And the last thing we need is pressure from anything, whether it's a fitness class or a parenting class or the church or whatever it is. There's so much pressure to perform excellently. So, and I've heard these stories from moms over and over again. I would hear their angst. I would feel it. Of they're exhausted, but they have to take Johnny to this, and this class, or they have to go to this, and this workshop. Be honest with yourself, and what are your immediate needs right now? Pick 3 immediate needs right now, and make a commitment to make those things happen within the month. Is it, my commitment to myself is to get sleep. Okay. So when your baby's sleeping and you're not sleeping, lay down with your baby for 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. If your commitment is to eating better, then just take the one step. Stop drinking the soda, or stop drinking, having the extra, look at your sugar intake. But it doesn't mean you have to already be at where we all appear to be on Facebook or on YouTube and social media. Because then we put the bar up so high that we can't reach it, and that we paralyze and we don't do it.
Yes, isn't that so true?
It's so true.
To add it as another to-do is like the pressure. I think you're so right on with that. So it's so interesting, too, to feel like we want to make these things such a priority, but in a way that only nourishes us and energizes us, and it doesn't just put more on our plate, which is a great analogy.
We don't need more. We need less. But before you get to less, you have to be within yourself and honest about your immediate needs. And how many moms do that? We don't do that because we're thinking of what do I do about vaccines? What do I do about where's the naturopath? Especially if you're in that eco world, there's just so much that we have to investigate in.
Right.
And we very easily get distracted by being the mother that we want to be and avoiding ourselves.
Yeah.
If we had a class that taught women how to be mothers from a totally different point of reference, instead of like, you're going to be a good mom because you're going to sleep, you're going to co-parent, you're going to, co-sleep, but you're going to do, you're going to do all of these things, and your baby's going to have this natural upbringing, and it's the best thing. But like, what about the soul and the spirit and the heart of the mother? Where's that nourished?
Yeah, it's so huge, and it's so right on, and I think so timely too, because for sure, even moms who might be considered yoga moms fall right in that category. It's so ironic that those of us who've come, to this kind of stuff because we want so much to have these lives with kids, but it's so interesting that most of us need to really make a shift to making it about, starting within. And that's really what's going to make us the moms that we want to be. And so, yeah, it's just such a different approach. I think it's really timely. And I love that, the weight thing can be kind of a starting place, but really just, one of the little indicators, if it's been a struggle in our lives, it's just an indicator of that need to go within and really look at how we're feeling and how we're caring for ourselves, and just flipping that as most important. It's so huge and exciting to think of how it can affect the individual and the family and, the community. It's huge. So huge.
And that's the ultimate goal for me, is to really mentor and guide and nourish a woman from a much deeper, more intimate place, so that she goes out in the world. Because a woman that is wholeness into her highest self and her highest vibration, there's a tremendous power in that. And she affects 1, 10, 20, 100. And those people affect, it's that vibration. I am not the same person that if anybody on this show right now, on this call right now, knows me from Belly Sprout. I'm so not that same person. I'm not even the same person I was 6 months ago. A friend of mine that I did a transformational workshop in November, he's like, it's been fascinating to see what's happened in the 10 months since I've known you. And it's not to toot my own horn, it's to say anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, and you can completely transform and reinvent yourself. When I unleash those women into the world, if they are called to work with me or just inspired by my face, whatever it is, the vibration that it sets off into the universe is magnificent. So imagine what it does in our household.
Yeah. Oh, I
imagine
love that.
what that does. And of course, like when I actually work through my program, I get to the root cause. We can't do that right now, but that's what I do, because there's energetic blocks that come from emotions that keep us from that. But just making that decision right now, making that commitment right now to anyone who's listening of what are my immediate needs right now? Where am I at in my life? I invite you to go into inner awareness and start that intimate path with yourself. That's it. Nothing, there's no tricks or anything about that. And to enjoy the path of self-discovery, because that's where all the answers are. And yoga is such, and yoga is, there's nothing more, I think, physically, mentally, spiritually, it's such an intimate place to be with yourself when you're present and you're listening to your breath and you're feeling your body move and you're feeling the power of your body, the vulnerability of your body. Like, it's huge. It's huge.
I love how you say that, too. I totally want to adopt that how our yoga can be a way of getting intimate with ourselves. And every time we drop into a moment of what feels like practice, whether it's just like closing our eyes wherever we're sitting, or, taking a breath, or putting our hand in a mudra, or doing a pose, or whatever it may be, that it can be just about getting back into being more intimate with ourselves and more tuned in, and just almost like redoing those steps of like, okay, where am I at right now, and what are 3 things it's so huge. And I think that's going to be so powerful for these women who have been picking up pieces along the way with this program, and then now as they're kind of taking it into their lives for the coming seasons, it's really foundational to see that, yes, it's about like my intimacy with myself and those moments and the ways that I'm choosing from there, and just completely shifting our focus to that as most important for how we're going to feel and function and help the people around us. So, gosh, well, I let us go way over because it's just so good. So I appreciate your being willing. And we could have talked for another hour, I know.
Yes, but, easily.
I want to honor your time. So is there anything else you want to say before we would call it to a close? And I will make sure these women can come find you and play with you more.
Yeah. I'm really excited that you're on this journey, and I just invite you, like, once again, to get intimate with yourself and just see how weight loss is not even going to be an issue once you start diving into that. It's going to literally, energetically, it will drop off, and you won't be holding on to the shit anymore as you explore yourself. And then as far as, I have a website, it's christyfunk.com. We're still it should be up and running by the end of the month. You can visit me on Facebook, friend me. I have a business page and my personal page. My personal page is way more fun than my business page. I have my Radical Self-Love, Radical Self-Change program is starting in 2 weeks, and that's a 6-week online course. And so, Laura, maybe what we can do is I can offer some type of gift or incentive for your clients. We can talk about that, and Laura will let you know. And then for local people, I've made the executive decision that I want to have a live event in November. So I've been in hiding for too long. I want to get out and meet people again. I've been hibernating, and now I want to be outside.
Ooh, well, I'll love to come. So
we'll talk about that for sure. Yeah, because we could have a panel discussion of this.
Oh, yeah. That would be totally wonderful. I would love it.
So those, Laura will point you in the direction. I would love to answer any questions, or have a very packed YouTube channel, and I'll give Laura all that and lead you there. But thank you so much. I'm really, really appreciative of this opportunity to reach out to moms and hopefully, just shift a little perspective and inspire just a bit.
Heck yeah, this was just as awesome as I knew it would be. So I look forward to listening to it again. And thank you so much, Christy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the work you do, and so many blessings to all of you on your path.
Sounds so good. Okay, thank you all for being here, and talk to you soon, Christy.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.